Welcome everybody. Welcome back to Vinland Saga, episode 7. It's been quite a while, not as much for most of you on Patreon probably, because I've uploaded episode 5 and 6 pretty late, so you've already gotten those two episodes not too far back. I've been quite recently probably. But other than that, there's going to be a lot of you who've been waiting for this for a long time, including episode 5 and 6, obviously, since the release schedule is going to be similar. We are going to have 5 and 6 not too far off from 7 right now. It's possible that I'm releasing them every 2 weeks, or maybe I'm doing every 10 or 12 days. That's possible depending on how much I've already recorded in advance and how much I have actually released on Patreon as well. But either way, I don't want to go too far into it. I remember most of the stuff that happened with Askeladd and Thorfinn, and I remember what happened to Thors, unfortunately. I do also remember a couple of other elements that we had. In last episode, we had this big moment where Thorfinn kind of, I don't want to say lost, because he already did kind of, but like gave up part of his innocence, maybe part of his humanity as well, because previously he's already been fighting and killing people and whatnot. But at this point in time, we did have this decisive moment where he kind of was taken in by an English family and protected by them. And when push came to shove and he was supposed to lead the pirates, to lead the raiders, to actually burn down the village and kill the people and whatnot, he joined them, right? He had that moment of hesitation and like looking into the eyes of like the older woman that kind of took care of him like a mother almost for a short period of time, and he did it, right? So there's this like parting ways with this element of like empathy and humanity that you had, and obviously it's not gone, but there's like something that kind of like could weigh heavily on his conscience down the line. So I'm very curious how this continues, how Askeladd is actually stringing him along, because that's what he's doing right now, and what's gonna happen next, especially also with all of the other elements, right? Leif and like the village and whatnot, his sister, his mother, maybe they play a role at some point in time. Maybe we'll see more from them. And then just like the other, like the mercenary band, the pirates, and what they're gonna do, and how like the infighting and the war with the English is gonna continue in our story. I'm sure it's just gonna be a lot to talk about down the line. I also want to kind of maybe address something, because it's been a while and I've read some of the comments, and not all of you. I mean, probably I addressed this in episode 5 and 6 as well. I don't quite remember, but I just wanted to address once again, like my initial reaction to Thors was probably relatively harsh towards him as a person. And I didn't mean it to be that way, but maybe it was kind of done out of emotion and also empathy for Thorfinn, kind of. The things he's going through right now, the things he has been going through since he literally saw his father die right in front of his eyes. That's like insane. But maybe I was a little bit emotional reacting to that, and I do think that maybe I was a little bit unfair, because Thors has been in a tricky situation from the get-go, and even though I think there probably would have been alternatives to what he could have been doing, it's not guaranteed that those alternatives would have had a better outcome, right? Like, for example, like just like not going there might have had very dire consequences for his village down the line, especially if the people like the Jorm's Vikings who visited him actually survived, and then they would maybe go after him. But maybe that would have been a bluff, right? Because like the main objective here was to actually kind of, well, the main objective was to get Thors to actually die, right? To get him killed, but not by their own hands. So you do have to kind of like, I do have to wonder if they would have actually pulled through with that, or if this was a bluff in order to get Thor's in a position where the hired mercenaries could easily kill him, right? So there's that question. Either way, it's a fucked up situation. It's crazy, and we are going to go right back into it. We're gonna start the episode. You all know what the deal is. There's a picture-in-picture version. If you want to see like the full-length stuff, go check out Patreon. I would really appreciate it. Let's get it on the screen. I'm sorry. Sometimes the magic doesn't work. And yeah, let's start this episode. Over here on YouTube, you will see whatever I can get through to the YouTube's copyright system. Vinland Saga seems to be really good on that end. Like, knock on wood. Either way, let's get this started. In 3. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. We are obviously going to sync up after the OP. We're going to sync up now, but you're going to get a second sync up after the OP because we're going to skip through the OP probably, or skip the OP entirely. We're going to start in 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
11世紀、デンマーク軍およびバイキングによる侵攻は激化の一途をたどっていた。
Refugees, straggling soldiers, villages burning.
そして10月、数年間にわたって継続された攻撃は転換点を迎える。
では、イングランドから兵を引かれると。
引くのではない、休めるのだ。冬の行軍は兵力を浪費する。派兵した軍にも兵器を養わせよ。
仰せの通りに。
夏だ。来年の夏には大攻勢をかける。いよも兵を率いて陣頭に立つ。
いきなり休みか。国に帰りてえよ。海賊連中も当分用なしだな。
Whoa, okay, is that...
私も稼げると思ったのによ。正規の兵が動かねえんじゃな。これだから
I just thought it was a time skip, but it isn't. Okay.
どうするつもりだ、アシュラッドは。
アシュラッド、このまま冬を越すのはちと寂しくねえか。めぼしい村は平らげちまったしよ。
だよな。
どうするつもりだ。
どうするもこうするも。渡り鳥と一緒さ。餌のあるところに移動するだけ。
And survive. Get yourself some food, some treasures. Probably that means raiding more villages. Lower river, okay. Crossbows, holy shit. I mean, obviously they're easier to... They're easier to use. The art is beautiful, by the way, like it's insane. I love the art style.
砦側は少数、せめては800ってとこか。あの砦に正面からぶつかるとはな。
怒号の本拠地ってとこか。どうだ、 お宝の匂いがプンプンしねえか？
おお、これが狙いってわけか。
Of course,
やる
that's
か
what he's
アシュ
after.
ラッド。
攻め手につくぞ。宝箱をぶっ壊して中身をこっそりいただこう。
Opportunism at its
こんな
finest.
ど田舎でどうするつもりかと思ったけど、さすがアシュラッドだぜ。やっぱ狩猟の嫁は間違いねえ。イングランドで稼げなかった分取り戻す。
そんじゃトロフィー出番だよ。
Of course he's up. And now we got the OP. I'm wondering what's going through Thorfinn's mind here. Is he like, because he's very expressionless at the moment, right? There's not a lot going on there in raw emotion. He was so like raw when all of this happened, right, with Thors, and it was so fresh. But it feels like he's disassociating more now, right? Just winning that, just numbing everything. I'm still eager to see the other ones here that we haven't seen yet. Right. Yeah, I'm really wondering what's going through Thorfinn's mind here.
参戦だ。攻め手の親分に渡りをつけといて。工場はこう。
Seems very numb to everything.
貴殿の戦は下手だ。見るに耐えん。よって我が兵団お助け申す。千載一遇渡りに船。必ずや何時らを勝利へ導くであろう。砦が落ちた暁には戦利品の半分を所望する。明朝再び突撃されよ。伝えたら奴らの兵営に残って状況を見張れ。分かったら行け。あ？どうした？行けよトロフィー。
これまでにどれだけ殺したと思ってる。
Is he counting?
石膏にも出たし、しんがりも務めた。手柄は十分に立てた。なのに、てめえは。
なんだよ、褒美が欲しいのか？交渉成立なら金貨3枚くれてやるよ。ティールシンに誓ってね。
ざけんな。いつまで逃げ回ってるつもりだ。
うおお、怖い。からかっただけだって。
He wasn't, but
だがな、それなら兜首の一つくらい取ってこなきゃならんだろうぜ。
相変わらずだね。でもいいのか？大事な交渉を任せちまって。
劣勢の兵は気が立ってる。交渉の前に殺されるなんざよくある話さ。拾ったガキなら惜しくはないだろう。
Alright, so he still kind of sees him as a pawn. He's like, okay, if he gets lost, whatever, right?
なんじゃわっぱ。ガキの来るところじゃねえぞこら。
軍師だ。ノルド語を話せるやつはいるか？
なんだこのガキ。何語だ？フランク人じゃねえな。砦のやつらのスパイか？
ま、捕らえとけ。俺は軍師だ。ノルド語を話せるやつはいるか？
戦利品の半分をよこせだと？傭兵風情が図に乗りよって。
Dude, what is this fat pig doing here?
大した自信だな、ノルマンニの小僧よ。
ノルマンニ。イングランドを荒らし回っている北の民か。イングランドを荒らし回っている北の民か。
小僧でもわかる。正門ばかり攻めても兵が死ぬだけだ。湖の防備は薄い。俺たちはそこを叩く。
朝知恵だな。
湖に至る川は登るにつれ勾配がきつくなる。天津さえ滝もあるのだ。我々の船も下流で往生しておる。湖から攻撃せぬのはそういうことだ。
It's really cool how we have the live translation actually happening.
この話ならばアシュラットの兵100人は砦側と手を結ぶ。俺が死んだ場合も同じだ。商談成立の合図がない場合、北海の猛者100人がお前の敵になる。
Playing the sides.
だが貴様の言葉が偽りであればその首を切り落とす。誠であればイエス・キリストの名においてパンを等しく分かち合おう。
俺の探検を返してくれ。親父の形見なんだ。
A good negotiator. Look at that.
Thorfinn からの知らせだ。高く1本、低く2本。
急ぐぜ。月が昇りきる前に峠を越えるぞ。
It's crazy. Askeladd is very clever. He's very clever.
俺も戦いてえな。
くそ、デブ将軍め。あそこか。
Crazy. They're moving the ship. They're moving the ship up the mountain. That is crazy. What is this thing?
はい、昨夜、船の守備兵全員が見たとの報告が。協調ですかか。
わしも一度見てみたいもんじゃ。小僧、貴様の仲間コヌではないか。
わしも一度見てみたいもんじゃ。
もう日が昇ってしまったぞ。
いいから突撃しろってエブ。すぐにわかる。
今なんか悪口言っただろう。どうやら貴様の首は今宵の余興になりそうだな。全身用意！
全身用意！
But he ain't gonna kill him immediately, right? Because that would endanger the attack and the chances to actually win this. Oh, it's so cool that we have like non-traditional weapons as well. Well, non-traditional, like weapons that you don't see that often in other media. Like a stone sling or something.
Oi, 敵の大将はドイツだ。
羽飾りのついた兜が見えるだろう。あいつだ。
He's gotta find a way to kill him.
貴様、やはり嘘か。殺せ！小僧を殺せ！おのれ！小僧は逃がすわ鳥では落ちぬ。どうなってるんじゃこの軍は。雪が降れば帰れると思うとんじゃ。
Bro's like, please, for the love of anything, just stop. Why do I have to serve this dude? What in the hell are they doing? And he's standing on top of it. What the fuck, dude? They are nuts. They are absolutely nuts. He's gonna climb that wall. I don't even know if that's realistic. I guess like the ships need to be really light for that.
そうか。あれは友軍じゃ。全軍進め。砦を落とすのだ。
担いで峠越えをするとは。
うろたえるな。右翼の80人はふらつき場へ行け。石みたい。来い。
And that show did like kind of distract them and almost like I guess nobody noticed Thorfinn here.
湖側は防壁どころか絶好の浅瀬なんだもんよ。よし、ぶっ込むぞ。なんだ？この距離で盾を貫きやがった。ウーロンがやられたぞ。アシュラッド。石弓か。多少損害が出るな。今なら格好の的だ。上陸される前にできるだけ。
Do they have swords? The crossbowmen.
あれ？攻撃が止んだ。矢が切れたのかな？
He knows what's up. Askeladd knows what's up. And yes, they do have swords, they just need to draw them. You know what I like? Holy shit. He's like, damn, the head, I need it. He needs the proof. He needs the proof. And that was the perfect distraction. Crazy. Also, holy shit, bro is like twice the size of the, like these Englishmen. Isn't it crazy that despite being attacked by Vikings, the moment they have some respite, they fight each other? Deal with the devil, I guess.
わしの予言術にかかってはこんな鳥で一くらよ。
Of course.
の守備隊長は戦死しました。敗兵の話によると子供の仕業とか。
あの小僧か。侮れんなノルマンに。このまま返しては我らの敵となるやも。
いかがいたしましょう。
連中は峠を越えてきた。帰りも船を担いでいくだろう。そこを叩く。陸に上がった船乗りなどは赤子同然よ。
Something tells me this is not gonna be as easy as you think.
なんだモーセ。
お松子が。
は
It has been emptied. They just went and they were like, see ya.
わしの宝は。
有力者の家や教会も荒らされております。金目のものは何もかも。
そう。
フランク人の長に申し上げる。
Oh, this dude.
戦利品の半分として貴殿は勝利を、我らは財宝を。文句はあるまいな。これでも謙虚な方だと思うぜ。砦はくれてやるんだからな。
いいか、奴ら滝を下る気だ。船を出せ。
それが砦にあった船は全て壊されてしまいましたよ。
ああ、フランク語はわからんな。さてと、おいとまするか。
トルフィンがまだだぜ。
あら、ほんと。ま、どうせ死んでる。分け前増えてよかったじゃん。
Not quite.
生きてたのか。
しぶといガキだな。怪我はねえか。
アシュラット大将首だ。
へえ、取ったのか。
約束だ。嫌とは言わせねえ。アイスランドの戦士、トールズの子、トルフィン。我が父の剣にかけて、アシュラットに決闘を申し込む。貴君は我が父の仇であるがゆえに。
おいおい、こんな時もだよ。よくやるな。
ウォラフの子、アシェラッド。我が祖、アルトリウスの名にかけて、トルフィンの挑戦を受けよう。
Right here, right now.
が、後にしてくれ。今こっから逃げるぜ。こげ、野郎ども。おい、ぐずぐずしてる。
Alright, so it's a promise. The question is when.
てめえ、ふざけんな。
竜が何だっつんだ。怖かねえ。
なんだ。
でもよ。
They're just driving down the waterfall. Daredevils.
フランクの衆よ。
Yeah. And with that, they're set for the winter, I guess.
It's just like
I miss this ED. I miss this ED. I know I say that every time. It's such a great ED. All right. I think. Yep. I think this is it. Let's go back through it. The first episode back again. It wasn't too like crazy in terms of like revelations, right? We continue the same story kind of, but it's really hard to kind of keep up with where are we now, right? Denmark, vicinity of Jelling. We talk to the king, and it's like, yeah, look. We're gonna draw back our soldiers for the winter, because in winter it's like we're gonna be exhausted. It's not gonna be nice. So he's like, dude, we are going to. We're letting the soldiers rest, because like in winter they're gonna be weakened. It's not gonna be great. So we're gonna let them rest. Obviously the English, the Franks will rest too, but as we see a little bit later on, they're still infighting. That's the issue, right? I'm like, am I the only one who's like, dude, like you're being attacked by Denmark. You're being attacked. And the clever thing would be to rest and let your soldiers like rest easy and then defend yourself when you're done. But you have all of these little dukedoms and whatnot, and they're fighting with one another, right? Like different tribes of Franks, and they're fighting. And it's like, dude, you're destroying yourselves, because when summer comes and the Danish attack again, you're gonna be toast. But for the mercenaries, this poses another question, right? Another issue. They are, by definition, they are being paid for a service, and when the service is not needed for a longer time period, it's not like they're soldiers who are getting paid, or at least provided for throughout the entire year, because they're being held as a standing army, right? As an army that is ready to deploy at any given moment by the king, by the kingdom. They are a band of people who are expendable, a band of people who are getting paid only for the work they do, specifically. So what they're doing right now is they need to find a way to provide for themselves beyond just the normal pay that they got and the normal loot and treasure they got by raiding the posts that they were supposed to raid by the Danish king, by the Danish army. So they're like, we're doing what the birds are doing, we're going where the food is, right? Like in birds in winter, they're gonna fly south, and at some point they're gonna land somewhere where there's more fruitful land, where there's more to eat during like the winter, and then they'll return where they came from. But he's like, we're gonna look for places to exploit. I can't state enough that we have such an amazing like art style, and like look at that, like the way we draw the land, it's very authentic to how I remember, for example, Ireland to be. I was in Ireland like a lot of years ago, but and the way we use it's not watercolor, it's like almost like a painting though, how we draw the environments. Now I'm not a big fan of like some of these in-between shots where we use like 3D animated soldiers that crawl across the foreground, because if you look closely you can see it, you can spot it, and it's like taking you out a little bit. But I understand the realities of budgeting, I understand the realities of anime production, and if it helps the animators to actually get the material out, if it helps them to otherwise create a product with a lot of quality, then I'll willingly take that before anything else, and I'll be very happy to have them include these 3D animations that don't look stellar, as long as like the key moments are done masterfully, and so far they have been. Right, so we have armies, we do see that there's a well-defended fortress, and obviously, well, maybe not as obviously, but as a rule in war, the defending side, aside from obviously having to provide for themselves in terms of food and water and whatnot, which can become a problem in longer sieges. They can defend a place, an area, a lot better with a lot less soldiers, and the attacking side will always be at a disadvantage and have to throw cannon fodder at the enemy until they finally breach the defenses. So people defending themselves, if they have the high ground, if they have big walls, right, if they have moats like this one here, and with small bridges that funnel the enemy soldiers through, so they have to get through the gate, and if there's no way actually to sneak around or to come from behind or to find like a secret entrance or tunnel to actually breach the fortress, then it's very hard to actually conquer a fortress with the same or just a little bit like, or even double the number of soldiers than the defending side has, because the defending side does have the advantage. They can have scouts and lookouts, they have the high ground, they have like, they can just rain down arrows with, especially if they have crossbows, they aren't even as reliant on people who are skilled at using the bow, because crossbows are way easier to kind of just prop up and then just aim and fire, much like a gun today, even though the accuracy is not even close to what a gun can do. It's still a lot better than what you would do with a bow, because you need a lot of like personal like physical fitness, and you need to train that. And with a crossbow, yes, you still have to aim, you still have to have like good eyesight, you still have to kind of like hold the crossbow, but like you don't have to, for example, you don't have to keep the tension of the string, and keeping the tension of the string can kind of make you very can be a problem when it comes to aim, because you do have to keep up that tension while at the same time aiming accurately, and that can, with muscle work, it can kind of throw you off. In terms of like the crossbow, you just have to hold that relatively low weight of crossbow and just be like, all right, and then maybe you'll see like the arrow drops and you miss something and you're like, okay, I gotta aim higher, right, or calculate the wind or something. But even there, like the crossbow is actually just using very small very small wings, basically very small like tail ends for flying, because they're shot at a higher velocity than most like the average arrow. So arrows are a lot more reliant on like wind changes, right, and strong winds, as opposed to a crossbow. The downside obviously is that the crossbow doesn't have quite the reach of a longbow, for example. I'm not an expert, but that's kind of like the gist of what I remember about these things. Either way, like again, beautiful painting style environments, really authentic and great representation of how it looks like in England, especially during that time. Even today, it kind of looks like that if you subtract all of the like the modern elements of like the houses and the technology and whatnot. And we'll just arrive, and Askeladd has a plan. He's smart. We see that every time he has some kind of plan, or he has some kind of thing he wants to do. He's like, look, there's two sides of Franks fighting for this fortress because they want the treasure inside, right? Or at least we think that's probably the case, right? They don't just want to hold that position because it's not like strategically super important. It is probably just to get the treasure, and they have like some local squabbles going on. What we're gonna do is like, we're gonna be like, look dude, you obviously just lost to the defenders. You're not gonna get there, and you're gonna lose a lot of men. Here's what we suggest. You attack tomorrow, we come in, we're gonna be like at the sea, we're gonna attack them at their weak point, which you couldn't do because you like tried to get downstream by the river, and you're like just fucking the currents were too strong, and like it didn't work with the boats and whatnot. So we're gonna do that for you, right? You don't worry about that shit. And we're gonna split the thing evenly, right? And if you say no, then we're gonna be like, we're gonna knock on the doors of the defenders, and we're like, look, we're gonna help you defend so your men don't die as much, right? So it's a win-win for them, basically. And he knows that most likely the enemy, like the attacking side, is kind of in a pickle, and they're kind of like, I don't know, how do we do that, right? And we don't want to lose more men, and morale is kind of crumbling, and they're probably gonna say yes. What I didn't think would happen, but which makes it makes perfect sense for Askeladd is that he would actually get the treasure and he would be like, see ya. So he's like, oh, I know, bro, like, at best, the Duke that is like attacking here is maybe gonna hold his word and give me like half, or maybe he's gonna give me like less than that and be like, be satisfied with that, right? Or worst case, he's gonna kill us or try to get rid of us in some way. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead of them and we're gonna be like, fuck you, dude. Because you're gonna, like, if you deal with people who play dirty, you gotta play more dirty. And I kind of respect that. He knows how, like, he knows how people work, right? He knows how especially armies and dukedoms and like leaders and whatnot make decisions. So he's banking on that, and he's banking on being more clever than them and actually finding a way to get ahead of them in the plan. So even if they were like, worst case, the Duke actually wanted to uphold his bargain and would be super fair, and then he would feel betrayed. But you don't expect anything else of a pirate, right? They can't ruin their reputation because it's already ruined. People look down on them. They think they're scum, right? They think they're soulless, and they already think that people pirates would betray them. So it's not a loss for them if they like betray somebody who might have actually upheld their bargain. On the other side, if they actually expected them to uphold their bargain and they wouldn't, and as a result they would die or lose in some kind of way, or not walk away from this with treasure, then it would be their loss, and it would actually reflect badly on them as people who are actually pretty weak, and can be used and abused and exploited, right? So for Askeladd, it's a win-win to betray others because people already expect them to betray them. So and they profit from that, and that is kind of a means for them to protect themselves also from being exploited by other people, by armies, by kingdoms, because kingdoms don't want to deal with them because they know they're strong. They know they would betray them at a moment's notice, and they know if they kind of betray them and it goes wrong, then there's going to be revenge on the horizon. So these are kind of like so in a way, you're building up a negative reputation as pirates, as mercenaries, in order to kind of protect yourself and your fellow pirates from being betrayed by other people. And I think that's like, you see that very clearly in this episode. It's obviously important that within the unit there is like some cohesive loyalty and trust, and that is the case, right? All of the men believe in Askeladd. They follow him, and he's always giving them good results. And that's something that you'll see throughout all of the episodes so far, and I'm pretty sure we're probably going to see that throughout most of the series. That to his own, he's fair and he's good. And the reason why he treats Thorfinn the way he does is that Thorfinn isn't really part of the group yet, right? Yes, he's kind of part of the group, but he's using him. And Thorfinn still has this animosity towards him and wants to kill him for revenge. So he needs to use that like carrot on a stick to kind of string him along and be like, yeah, you're gonna get your revenge eventually. Prove yourself and you will, right? Like, I hold the cards, basically. Especially since Thorfinn wants that honorable, honest, head-on fight rather than slitting his throat during the night. So that's a point as well. So he's using like Thorfinn's like sense of pride and honor, like the thing he needs, because Thorfinn has this desire to enact revenge in a way that is not as dirty as what Askeladd would be doing, because he thinks like he needs to uphold this like morality that he's above that, right? And he needs to justify the things he's doing right now, in a sense, by saying that this is all for a grander goal that is kind of on this like that kind of exists on an honorable scale, right? That is kind of in line with what his father would see as honorable. And I think he needs that, because if he would just slit his throat in his sleep, I feel like Thorfinn would feel like he would lose something of his father, and probably also because he would think that he hadn't proven to Askeladd that he's stronger than him, right? Which he really needs, because Thorfinn is kind of in a state where he experienced very, very big trauma and couldn't do anything about it, right? He couldn't rescue his father. He wasn't strong enough. He wasn't big enough. He wasn't clever enough. And he feels responsible and guilty for his father dying. So I feel like what he feels like at the moment in his life is that he's completely out of control of his own life. So my theory, my working theory, is that there's this desire inside of him that he wants to have control over his life and control over something, right? And wants to feel strong and capable. And to do that, he actually needs to, and to get closure, he needs to enact revenge on Askeladd, for his father's death, and regain control of this trauma, of the situation, in order to come out of this having processed it in a healthy way and it not haunting him anymore, right? So I do feel like instinctually, all of this is subconscious, right? This is not a conscious thought. Instinctually, Thorfinn is seeking out this honor duel in order to beat Askeladd and then basically show him who's better, enjoy this moment of revenge while Askeladd is aware of it, rather than him slitting his throat in the night and Askeladd not being aware of it at all and just dying. And regaining control of his life. I think those are kind of like parts of these elements that he is like feeling there. Now, what I said in the beginning was like with his facial expression and disassociation, interestingly enough, I wasn't proving wrong, but like I was surprised by Thorfinn suddenly talking and being more aggressive and being like more demanding about like, when do I get my duel? I mean, it makes sense, but at the same time, it's very interesting that there's moments where he can just shut it off and he's just like blank face. He's just going through it. He's just shutting everything out because it's easier to just live in the moment, to fight, to be aggressive, than to think about all of these sad thoughts, process all of the things that happened, let in all of the guilt that he maybe feels for some of the things that he did so far. But he can actually talk about it, interestingly enough, when it comes to like just what he wants, right? That coveted duel that he wants to take revenge. He can actually be like, you know how many people I killed? This is more than enough. I should deserve my duel, right? So it's kind of like I said, the justification. It's like I killed all of these people in cold blood, and maybe I'm a bad person, but I did that in order to reach this noble goal of actually taking revenge for my father, right? So it's like, if he talks about it in this way, he can actually talk about it and doesn't break down, right? And isn't immediately haunted by all of this guilt, because he's putting it in the context of what he wants to reach. Now, if taking revenge will eventually actually give him this sense of control over his life, and if it's all gonna be good afterwards and the guilt is not gonna haunt him, I doubt that, right? There's gonna be a rude awakening of like, maybe I took revenge or some kind of like closure, but it's still not gonna work because I did all of these horrible things and now I have to deal with it. There's gonna be that, right? At the very least, if we want to keep Thorfinn being human and don't want to develop him into an actual complete antagonist and like want to build him up as like a pseudo like villain character who is like morally very, very bad and evil. Because that's obviously a character progression we can also go into, where we're like, okay, this person slowly develops in a way where it's easier and easier to do bad, like morally bad things, to do things that are abhorrent, right? And maybe we have that moment where he's at his very lowest in terms of like morality, and suddenly there's this twisting point that opens his eyes and he's like, oh shit, what have I done? And then he gets his like redemption arc. That is a possibility. But I think like so far it looks like we're going in the direction of, yes, we're working towards this like revenge goal that maybe eventually is gonna happen, or maybe it's not, and we're gonna have a point where we like break down and all of the guilt is gonna overwhelm us. It's gonna like be the turning point where we need to make an active decision if we want to follow up on this revenge and continue down this road, or if we want to continue down a road that is maybe going more in the direction of some kind of redemption, right? I mean, it's the same thing, right? We're going down a morally gray and dark path all the way to a certain point, and we have a turning point and we go for redemption possibly, and we deal with the guilt, we deal with the trauma. But the way it's going to go, right? The way it's like how far are we going with the morally questionable or terrible act? How far are we gonna go until there's a turning point? What is gonna be that turning point? Is it gonna be love, romance, right? Is it gonna be meeting some kind of character that's kind of like a pseudo father figure that could kind of like reawaken that connection to Thor's within him, that like that strong connection that he had to his father? Is it seeing his family again? Is it seeing some of his old friends again? Stuff like that, right? There is something. There's gonna be a moment, but the question is, what is it gonna be? It could also just be him meeting an innocent bystander, and something about that person kind of awakening that turning point in him. But yeah, this is where I see it going right now. Maybe I'm totally off with the story and it's going a completely different direction, but so far this is where I see Thorfinn in the future. Either way, some of these frames are really cool, right? The way we shoot the squad, basically, right, up on the hill, and we're looking down towards the camera, which is gonna be like whatever is downstairs. The minute little reactions of the pirates and the mercenaries smiling when Askeladd leads them and is revealing his plan. We got flashbacks. Interestingly enough, what I really like, we do have flashbacks to the various kills that Thorfinn has, but we don't do it in a way of, oh, remember what happened in last episode that we just saw? It's more like as if Thorfinn, when he's saying about like, you know how many people I killed, it's quickly flashing through his mind, right? Yeah. And he's like just mentioning, he's like, dude, I deserve more. Trying to bargain. Also, Thorfinn, stop Naruto running, please. Please stop. I can't take you seriously when you do that. Bro looks very, very, like very chopped, I might say. Like, not really, right? He looks very handsome, but at the same time, he looks so wild, right? He looks like a, I don't know, wild wolf or something, like a wild dog, right? Not wolf. Wolf would be a little bit more majestic and a little bit more like experienced. He looks like a wild, like dog of war kind of deal, right? Like a dog that's been roaming the battlefield for like months, and it's just like all of like the fur is kind of ruffled and dirty and whatnot, but he still looks like the general frame of the dog is still like very cool looking and aggressive and like in some kind of way beautiful as well. Right. Negotiations. I think it's crazy that Askeladd was just like, okay, here's what you're gonna say to the leader, and Thorfinn's like, okay, I remember all of that. I couldn't, right? I could not, right? Somebody's like, you say this, you say this, you say this. If he does this, you say this. I'm like, I need you to write that down for me. I mean, obviously the rough, you can like, I could remember the rough draft of it, but I wouldn't be sure enough to be like, oh yeah, I totally remember all of that. This leader is crazy, I'm just gonna say. Like, first of all, hello, Gold Roger. Where did you hide the One Piece? Also, this guy looks like a fucking goblin or something. Crazy. Bro did not win the genetic lottery. This is like inbreeding at its finest. Beautiful water. Also very, very fun that they're like just moving the ships up the mountain again. I don't know how realistic that is depending on the weight of the ship, but they're moving the ship up the mountain and it's like in the moonlight and you have this shape that looks like a monster or a beast or something or a dragon, and they're like, holy shit, there was a dragon tonight. Our men told us it was moving up the mountain, and everybody's like, yeah, sure there was a dragon. And all of the guards that are out there at the ship, they're like terrified. Bro, how do you lead your army when you have a belly this big, dude? Like, nobody's gonna respect you. The only reason they follow you is maybe because like your father was a big deal or something, or like, I don't know, or you have a lot of money, right? Like, but even that, like, who's gonna respect this dude? Little Frank Napoleon here. Discount Napoleon. Casualties be damned. Yeah. These shots are crazy. I mean, I love this stuff anyway, right? Like how you're playing with perspective and you're kind of twisting things in a more like caricature kind of way to empathize how a person kind of like how the general vibe of a person is, how like the impression they make on other people. It's a really great way. And look at the soldiers like expression. They're like, holy shit, dude, shut the fuck up. Why do I have to do this? Really surprised that Vinland Saga can have a couple of funny moments as well. It's really cool. Like hallmarks of some of the greatest shows are that even though they're maybe super serious or super comedic, they can swing into the other and do that well. One thing I remember, like, it's not an anime, but when I was like younger, I used to watch Scrubs. A lot of you probably know that. And it was like a comedy show throughout, but it had these very somber and like serious emotional moments that it most of the time, not always, but most of the time, it really hit with them and it really executed them well. And that is one of the things that kind of stayed in my mind, that this show is something that is really doing well when it comes to just displaying emotions, displaying serious things, right? I think it is a unique show if you can actually see that the show is kind of, while it is very comedic and you laugh a lot, there's moments where it can really sell you the drama, it can really sell you serious life lessons without detracting from the actual comedy side of its general vibe. And it's the same for drama that actually gets in some very nice and comedic moments without breaking the pace and without just releasing the tension completely. I've seen anime in the past, I've seen shows in the past that are serious and dramatic, and they try to include a couple of moments of comedy, and the comedy completely breaks the pace of the show. It breaks the vibe of the show, the atmosphere, like, and suddenly you're totally out of it, and you're like, I mean, that might have been a funny joke, but it didn't hit because like it wasn't built in well enough into, like, it wasn't built into it in an organic way. But so far, Vinland Saga is really doing well on that front. They're really like good at including these comedic and amusing moments while staying serious and emotionally weighty and action heavy as well, right? Look at the shot. That's an amazing shot, right? With the fist being right here in the frame, and then you see him hanging on it. And I thought that would be the case, that he's putting his swords in there, but the brilliance of actually having Thorfinn not being seen because the ships are coming in, they're like scrambling, they're like, holy shit, they're gonna come from the sea, and then they turn around and suddenly Thorfinn is attacking, and now he's the distraction. So it's so cool, it's so dynamic, because we keep surprising them with new things and they can't keep up. So this is half the battle actually won, surprising your enemies, doing things that they don't actually expect. One thing I really disliked about this specific scene is that he's just walking towards them with the sword. He could have already killed 2 of them or 3 before they drew their swords, but I guess we're gonna keep it kind of dramatic and kind of try to show that Thorfinn is a real badass and way more skilled than a simple soldier. But at the same time, one thing I really love about this scene is that Thorfinn is actually going for their weak points. If you look at it, he's actually cutting them at different points. I think he's actually cutting underneath the armpit here. So this is like a typical weak point of a soldier normally. Although I don't know how it is with like the chainmail. Normally the chainmail should cover this one as well. But either way, there is certain points, and we're cutting like for the enemy commander, we're sliding underneath, and before he can draw his sword, we're actually cutting his throat, which is a clear weak point if you don't have like a thick helmet or something on. So yeah, I really like that attention to detail, and I really love the general like first person point of view that we're going at here. Switching perspectives as well, right? Outside perspective, low poly, inside first person perspective, high definition, quick action camera, kind of following the gaze of Thorfinn. It doesn't need to fit. Not everything needs to fit perfectly, and you don't like, if you start questioning, what was this person doing during that, or how did he get past this person if he didn't really do much. But either way, right, it works because it's fluid, it's fast, and it's intuitively right. And I really love that. Love that shot as well, where he's coming in like the boss, basically, right? Like our camera is below the body middle, and as a result of that, we see them as larger, we see them as more looming, we see them as more built, basically, and more intimidating from our camera point of view, because they're the victors, right? They're coming in, they have conquered the village already. Crazy expressions for some of those. Some of the brutality is insane, right? I mean, we don't overdo it, which I really like, but we also show the horrors of war, kind of. And we plundered everything. We're gloating. He's like, oh, well, I guess Thorfinn died. He's like, oh, my problem is solved. I don't know if he thinks that, but I think in moments like these, he's just rolling with it. So he's like, oh, well, problem solved. And then Thorfinn's coming in and he's like, shit, well, it is what it is, right? And he's like, okay, I'll give you your duel, but not right now. We're getting shot at. And obviously he's like using that as like I have another excuse not to do it right now. Because I'm exhausted, you're exhausted. Maybe I would win, but I don't want to do it right now. But also, obviously, pretty logical that you're like, oh, you know what? We're getting shot at. I don't want to fight you right now. But Thorfinn is, in this specific instance, he's still childish in the attitude he has. And he has so much hate in him, and even though he can control it, he can keep it down to reach his goal, there is not a lot of understanding on his part. He would have fought him. If Askeladd was like, okay, people are shooting at us, let's fight anyway, he would have done it, and I think Thorfinn would have done it at a disadvantage probably. So we need to be careful. He is still thick-headed, he's still hot-headed, and he can't always control his temper very well. That is an issue. That is an issue that could become an issue later on. So far, he's still been able to somewhat control him and his emotions and keep them down in order to reach his goal of revenge eventually. But there is the chance of it boiling over here. He's still just a teenager. Teenagers do have the capability to regulate their emotions, but it's not as developed in many cases as it is for people who are grown up already. Now, obviously, there's enough grown-ups which the ability to self-regulate their emotions is also not perfect. It's also not as developed. And maybe they're stuck in that situation for most of their lives because they've never learned to deal with that. This is where therapy can help. Can help if it's actually something causing issues in your private life. It can help because there's a lot of skills you can learn, a lot of things that you can develop on your own with a little bit of instruction and help and support. And I'm pretty sure it will help you in your life because it's a lot easier to reach your goals and maybe also be satisfied and happy in your life if you can regulate your emotions well. As long as you don't over-regulate them, that can also be. What we see a lot in depression is that people actually over-regulate positive emotions and they under-regulate negative emotions. The negative emotions are always like really big and impactful on people that have depression. Well, oftentimes, not always. And positive emotions are always like kind of, oh, it's not a big deal. And then it's regulated down again and you never really have the opportunity to feel proud of something, to be happy in a moment. And not feeling that isn't that great for your personal health or your mental health from a long-term perspective. Anyway, that was Vinland Saga episode 7. I really liked this one. I hope I'll get to record episode 8 pretty soon. It's probably gonna be in my at my family's location because it's almost Christmas. Can you believe it? Christmas, just a week away. It came so quickly. Christmas, just a week away. But yeah, it's Christmas soon, and I'm gonna go home to the family and hopefully have a nice 2 to 3 weeks of holidays, even though I still have some stuff to do. There's gonna be some stuff on here. I mean, you on YouTube will probably see these episodes quite some time after Christmas, so I hope you all had a very nice Christmas and did get a good start into the new year. You know how it is. 2026 already. New year, new me, right? Say that every year, but it's still me for some reason. But yeah, I'll see you next time. Keep being awesome and check out my other stuff.